Alright, welcome back, knife fans. Thank you for joining me again on the channel today. Let's talk about my favorite steel and why it may be the best all around knife steel out there. RWL34 from Damasteel. It's so pretty that it has a hard time picking it up. Can't argue with that. The beauty. The deadliness. Oh crap, get it in there. Is it getting it? There it is. Look at that. Yes. Alright. This is kind of a blanket statement to say that one steel is better than another steel. There's a lot of them out there. Some of them are pretty good at some things, terrible at others. Some of them are terrible at everything. But at least they're really expensive. There's a constant search for among knife people for the perfect knife steel. What is the best steel for any given job? Well, there isn't one steel that's the best for all given jobs, but I believe there is a steel that is the best for most jobs. RWL34. It is the perfected version, the modern, more recent, more contemporary, perfected version of 154 CM. Now 154 CM is a great steel from back in the day, been around since the 50s or 60s I think. It was developed as a stainless steel for turbine blades in turbine engines, that kind of thing. So it's a very high wear resistant steel, excellent chromium content for stain resistance and other elements and stuff like that. But 154 CM was kind of latched onto early in the part of last century, middle of last century, as a good knife steel, as a great knife steel, especially by guys like Robert Loveless and stuff like that that kind of pioneered the use of it, and the Japanese version of it, ATS-34. Now I talk about these steels a lot because I've used them more than just about anything else and have more experience with them than just about anything else, and I've tested them more than just about anything else. High carbons are kind of a different category. Okay, so when it comes to the perfect steel, category of use has to do with a lot, but I'm talking about all around. Okay, 154 CM and ATS-34 being the venerable old dogs of the series I'm talking about. The new versions are CPM 154, okay, the particulate metal version made by Crucible Metals here in the US, and then RWL34, the powder metal version made by Damasteel in Sweden. Those two are the perfected versions of 154 CM and ATS-34, and they have the process by which they were created provides some of the proofs and some of the reasons behind why I say they are the best knife steels out there right now for all around general use, and I'll get into that in a minute. Okay, back to context real quick before we lay this groundwork out. I'm going to give you my reasons, a few of them, of why I think RWL34 is the most versatile all-around knife steel out there and one of the best on the market right now. All right, context of use. We're not talking about a sword steel here, all right? No steel on the planet can fill all roles, but RWL comes really close. I wouldn't use it in a sword, okay? It's not a high impact steel for like swords and impact weapons of large size because it's a little more brittle than it needs to be for that kind of thing. It's very tough compared to other stainless out there, but it's not that tough. It's better quality than all of that though. For most of the typical steels you would see in forging for Damascus, for like 1084, 1095, W2, they may have more toughness, but they don't have a lot of the other elements I'm going to talk about later on in the video that RWL34 does offer. That's why it is a better steel. Now granted, I love W2. I use it a lot in my larger weapons or anything there's historically inspired aspect to a knife or something like that. I'll use W2. It's my preferred high carbon. It does have a little tiny bit of corrosion resistance to it, but what it really has more than anything is toughness and ease of sharpening. Love it. It's great for that. Great steel for that. I would use it in any knife. I would take it in any context. From straight razors to swords, I would take W2. So it has the broadest versatility of just about any steel out there. However, it is lacking. Let's bring it to number one reason RWL34 is one of the best all-around knife steels out there for the general user, for my customers, for people who just want something worry-free. Corrosion resistance. The stainless characteristics of it are not as obnoxious as some of the Gucci steels out there, not as obnoxiously high, meaning it's not as corrosion resistant as some of the real Gucci expensive useless steels out there, because they are kind of useless. but it's enough to where you don't have to worry about your knife. You can just use your knife. You don't have to worry about, you know, getting a bunch of rust on it and stuff like that. You can just use it. All right. You don't have to religiously clean it. You don't have to do all these crazy oiling processes and waxing in the whole 9 yards every time you go use it for something that has some moisture content or in some environment that has moisture. You just can use it and not worry about it. It's a beautiful steel for that. It has enough chromium in it and other alloying contents to make it useful in that context. But they're not so much there. There's not so much of them there that it degrades the other aspects of the steel, which brings me to point number 2. Point number 2, while RWL34 is one of the best steels out there, you can sharpen it. It's as simple as that. You can actually sharpen the steel with common tools. I use a crock stick, a Lansky crock stick, right here. This is a Lansky. I've used this for most of my knife sharpening. I have a machine, I can do it faster, but I use a crock stick for most of my knife sharpening for years now. It's just simple. It's simple for my customers, the people who buy my knives, my collectors, to use and do on their own. You just sharpen it, you strop it, life is good. Point number 3, it actually takes a good razor's edge. You can get a screaming sharp edge on this stuff, and it will hold it for a disproportionate amount of time compared to other stainless steels out there. It's not as brittle. It is a tougher steel. Point number 4. It is a tougher steel than most stainless out there. Okay, there are other steels out there like tool steels that have stainless characteristics, CPM 3V, that are definitely tougher. But CPM 3V is one of the worst steels in the world to try to sharpen and maintain an edge on. It sucks sharpening that stuff. You can get a good edge on it, but it sucks sharpening it. It's not something you can sharpen with tools in common use in the field very easily. RWL34 is. And you get the toughness that you need in a knife to work for long periods of time. I have personally used RWL34 on large game for years. My customers use it regularly, and the sharpening characteristics of it and the edge holding characteristics of it are such that you just generally don't have to worry about it when you take it to the field. You take your knife, you use your knife, you come home, you get the edge wicked back up if you've done any damage, and life is good. Move on. And my last reason why I think RWL34 is one of the best knife steels out there right now for all around use is the finish. You can get amazing finishes on this stuff. You can go anywhere from it looks good as a satin, it looks good bead blasted, which I hate, but people do it and they think it's cool on this type of steel. You can do a mirror polish, which is my preferred. I love the mirror polish. That's juicy good. Look at that. So juicy. I mean, come on. That's just pretty. We like shiny things. So you can mirror polish it. You can satin finish it. You can hand finish it. You can bead blast it. You can drag it down a gravel road. It doesn't matter. You can get a good finish on it easily and quickly. So to sum up, what gives this steel all these characteristics that a lot of the other steels out there that are on the market right now, I think of the 80 knife steels out there right now, why for me it always comes back to the top. Now there's other great ones. Bowler makes some great steels in the M390 series and stuff like that. But why RWL34 keeps coming back to the top for me is because it is a powder metal process. Powder metals. That means there's uniformity in the steel that is uncharacteristic to forged metals. Hot forging processes, even the particulate process that CPM use. The powder metal version is cleaner, more consistent, tougher with a finer grain structure, and more corrosion resistant. All of those factors hinge on that. That's why Damasteel has perfected the 154 series of steel in RWL34. Thank you for joining me again. Leave your comments, like, subscribe, share, do all the things down below. And give me your comments. There's no one answer for every person, and I get that. And there's preference. There's definitely preference out there. People have preferences for different steels for different reasons. This is my preference. This is what I found my customers responded the most to. And I personally have switched everything in my catalog that I use on daily or otherwise in the kitchen, in the camp, in hunting bags, wherever. Everything I've used now in my pocket knife, which is an RWL34 guillotine I've been using for years. I've shown it before on the channel. I haven't used anything to sharpen this except for my little crock stick since I made this knife 5 years ago. But I have switched everything in my repertoire over to RWL34 or Damasteel. with one caveat, W2. W2 is the only steel outside of that I use. And I use that generally in just specific context. When requested as a high carbon, it's a great steel for that. I'll cover that in another video. Why I think W2 may be the best high carbon out there. So that's it for me today. Thank you for joining me again. Have a blessed day. Happy cutting, and hunting season is here. Get your knives ready. Thanks again.